Okay, with Vela, the Morality Game is the winning screenplay. It's a drama with a lot of comedy. It's about death. It's about survival. It's a coming of age. So it's kind of like a I guess it's like a character study that's a comedy. Is that the best way to describe it?
Yeah, I would say a character-driven dramedy is what I call it.
Dramedy. Okay, yeah,
At the
because yeah,
Mortality
there is a
Game.
lot of drama in it, but it is funny. Yeah.
Now, just to be a stickler, it is called the Mortality Game, not the Morality Game would be a totally different movie.
Did I
And
call
I
it the
would
morality game? I totally apologize. The mortality game. It's late at night
Mortality.
here as we're doing this podcast,
Just
so I
want to make sure,
apologize.
just make sure they know what to look up if they decide to look it up on Google. Actually, that thing. I don't know if they told you this, but years ago, I was participating in a screenwriting fest in Australia. And as part of their prize for being in the top 10 or whatever I made it to, I don't even remember if I won that contest. But one of the prizes was they put your screenplay on Amazon through their company, Dizzy Emu. Now, I guess nobody ever bought it because I never got a royalty from it. But the Mortality Game, the screenplay, is out there on Amazon like a book with a little. They even created the art for me for the cover and everything. And I
Hmm.
thought, well, that's interesting. Both my screenplays that I wrote or that I submitted to them are up there on Amazon, and they've been up there for a while. So the good news is, nobody can say I didn't write them. And if anybody decides to steal them from me, I'll say, hey, back a few years ago, I had them published, sort of, kind of. Anyway, so that's an interesting side note to the the trauma or the tribulations of the Mortality Game. I mean, it's
Gotcha.
actually
You have people are watching this on YouTube. You have a Chewbacca in the background, so I'm assuming you're a
yes.
Star Wars
Just so
fan.
you know, Chewbacca and I are buddies from way back. We used to fly together in the Millennium Alcorn. That was a offshoot of the Millennium Falcon. No, actually, I was telling you that I put this up. I don't know why. Oh, I think because my apartment was dirty, as it always is. So I wanted to have a background besides my own dirty apartment. So I put Chewbacca the Wookiee and his clan up behind me for that particular meeting. I've never been able to figure out how to take it down. So from now on, Chewbacca and I are just bosom buddies forever. And that's why it's in the background. But I mean, it's kind of a comforting thing to have there, a Star Wars icon to back you up.
So it's a great idea because it, like as you said in the blog interview, we all kind of, well, let's assume that we all are going to die and we all are going to experience death. So and it's something that people, especially in the Western world, tend to avoid. They don't really want to talk about something. So it's like you kind of put it on the forefront with the screenplay. So it's a great idea. And I guess you said you've been writing it for since you started writing it in 2011, and you kind of been writing it different drafts since then, I guess, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, I've gotten feedback, some of which I've accepted and actually tweaked the script to accommodate some good ideas, and others I've rejected and said, no, I want to keep it this way. And it's been winning, I think it's won upwards of 40 or so awards from different film festivals because it's been out there for a while over the years. And I've been plugging it, trying to get somebody to option it. But the main thing is that it's gone through some evolutions, but it stayed, the core of it really hasn't changed in all this time because it started out as a pretty good screenplay to begin with. And I have evolved it and changed it to a certain extent. But the core of it is still pretty much the same thing as it was in 2011 when I put the first draft to bed in November of 2011. It's gone through a lot of manifestations since then, but here we are 14 years later and it's still winning awards. So I guess it must have some relevance. Also, when you spoke of the concept, it did win once an award at a some film festival for best concept, which I didn't even know was a thing for that festival. That festival evidently gave an award for best concept. So guess who won best concept? Yours truly here. So anyway, that was interesting to say the least.
Okay, so I do have to admit or divulge that is it the same script because you won I think 2017 with us. You won the contest with PCI.com
Well,
or dot
yeah,
com
that
five.
was ICOM 5, and it was a TV pilot. And I won something from you with that, and they did a whole reading for me and everything, and
Yeah.
all the actors are doing these different voices and everything, and that's still on YouTube, and I get to go back and visit it anytime I want to, and that was kind of a long gap there I think that was 2017 that
2017. So that it was like 8, 9, it was almost like 9 years ago. Yeah, because I remember we did it before Christmas. I remember doing it before Christmas.
okay. Well, then you remember it more than I do insofar as when you did it. I know when you kind of posted it, and I was like, maybe a little bit, but I know it was around that era. So I hadn't really sent you much of anything since then. I don't know if I just kept missing you or what. And then this time around, I think you were going through Facebook or something, and I didn't even know it was Wild Sound until later on. I went, oh, I sent it to Wild Sound, okay. But I was very shocked that I won because either I hadn't entered in a while or when I entered, I didn't win. So this was kind of, I mean, not that it isn't a strong script, but when the feedback I got from you guys was, this is one of the strongest spec scripts we've read in a while, I'm like, yay, that was terrific.
So, but it's a different script, right?
Oh, from the one from 17?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that script was like I said, that was a TV pilot sci fi, big
No, I
sci
know,
fi.
but you were saying that you wrote it. You said you wrote it. You said you've been sending it to different years. I know. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, not to yours. This
Yeah.
is the first time a Wild Sound, the
Yeah.
Wild
Okay.
Sound. No, first time I said the Mortality Game in, and boom, it won. Yay.
Yeah, and the person who narrated that script way back in 17, Becky Shripton, she's done very well. Let's just say that she's had a very good career since then. So
As
if
a
you ever
voiceover
want to, yeah, pardon?
actress or as a writer?
Yeah, voiceover actor, like just as a very accomplished voiceover actor. Yeah. So yeah,
Well, that's cool. But a lot of things can change in 8 years.
yeah, because it was a long time ago. Yeah, I remember it was a long time ago. Yeah. So I just brought it up. We posted it on December 18th, 2017. So that was, yeah. So,
That was that year. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah. And again, I'm not sure if I've sent some in the years between that and now, and I just didn't win or didn't advance or whatever, or what I sent to you got lost in the shuffle, or I never heard back from you or what. I honestly don't remember. But again, this time around, I didn't even know I was sending to Wild Sound per se. It was a contest through Facebook that I was something else. I wasn't sure what it was. And I remember saying, oh, it's a new screenplay contest. I'll just enter this. And
gotcha.
again, when I have two go to scripts, screenplays. One's a sci fi action adventure shoot 'em up that's won some awards at these different festivals. But my biggie is this one because this one's pretty universal. And it pretty much appeals to or makes people notice it universally in a profound way because it is this dramedy that's very based in reality. Whereas the other one, the Future Force, is basically a sci-fi. The aliens are coming to get us. Let these people with special powers stop them. Kind of film. So it's very much a very different genre, and yet I like that one too. And apparently some other festivals like that one. I think last time it won, I think it won as some kind of sci-fi something or other. It's definitely a sci-fi horror festival. So I sent it there and it did well. So again, it just depends on the contest and as far as what I send and this one I have been, you know, I hate to say it like this, but I've been beating this one to death for a while now, and this is about death. It's strange that I say that, but I just think this is a quality script. It deserves to be optioned. It deserves to be done, and at some point I think it will. Hopefully in my lifetime.
Yeah. So it just like it is interesting that like you just keep plugging it out there and it just wins award after award after award, right? So
Well,
obviously you
and that's
must
the
be
thing.
doing something right.
That helps manifest my continued pushing of it is the
Yeah.
award after award from everywhere from uh, India. I forget what's the name of that city in India. I won something from there, and then I won something in Indochina, and I got a really good gift perk from winning a contest in Indiana. I got to talk to a actual screenwriter that's working here in LA. I got to go see his directorial debut in a film he did as a director, and he invited me out to the LA Film School to see it. And I thought, son of a gun, it pays to enter these contests because you never know what that contact's going to lead
Yeah.
to. I still remember him and the conversation we had for about an hour, and his suggestions about I believe that one again was the Mortality Game. At one point in 2019, I believe, the Mortality Game won three different contests in the spans of 3 months, all here in the States. One in Florida, one in Indiana, and one in Arizona. And I got one phone call from one producer who never called me back. He called me to see if I still had the script rights, and then I never heard from him again. So that was kind of interesting. But I guess when you win three in a row in
So
a
you
matter of a
did.
month or
So
two,
he called you, but you didn't answer the phone. You were.
no,
Oh,
I talked to him, and his only question was, "Do you still have the rest of the script?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "I'll get back to you." He never did. So I didn't even know who he was. He just said, I vaguely remember the name of the company.
yeah.
I don't know, like I said, I don't remember it, but I vaguely remember him mentioning the name of the company he worked for. And he said, "I'm so and so with this such and such. Do you still have the rights to the screenplay, The Mortality Game?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I'll get right back to you." Right back was, let's see, that was 2019, so
Mhm.
about 6 years ago. So you never know with these producers. I don't know. But the fact that it got some traction right then at that particular time, because three contests in a row in a matter of 2 months, all here in the States, not in India, not in Indochina, not in Australia, but here, I guess got somebody to notice. But again, just getting noticed doesn't mean anything. They didn't ask for the script unless they already had it from some other avenue, and they could have, and they never called me back. So I don't know. It's just a quirky thing with of the in the land of screenwriting, especially a beginning screenwriter or an undiscovered screenwriter or a non-WGA screenwriter like myself. You just never know, you know, if you're ever going to get noticed by anybody. Oh, I have to point this out, by the way. My sister will kill me if I don't. This is the shirt she sent me, and if you can read it, I don't know if you can read it, but she that is her statement involving me. It's those that can cope with me on a daily basis. They're the real heroes. That's what this shirt says, and I
Yeah.
and I, I must agree with her assessment of my incredible personality.
So there, she's kind of taking a shot at you, but then you decide to wear the shirt anyways, I guess, right?
Oh, oh, yeah. I've embraced the shirt because, from her vantage point, she does have to cope with my stubbornness and my behavior patterns. One of the reasons I haven't really made it in LA, I don't play well with others. I think of film as a collaborative effort as long as I'm in charge of it. I've had people want to produce, and I have let them produce a couple of times some of my short screenplays, but I'm always disappointed if they do it and they end up doing it wrong. Like they miss the entire concept at the end. They mess it up, and I'm like, didn't you get this? It seems obvious to me, but I'm a writer, and as a Virgo, I live to analyze.
Well,
So I'm always
I'm a Virgo too. What's your birthday?
August 30th.
Okay, I'm September 10th. So,
Oh, I have a friend who's September 10th from back in Houston, and he and I, fellow Virgos, understood each other really well. But my deal is that if when you're going to send me a buttload of money, and I think that's going to be the difference. When they want to option my screenplay, whether it be the Mortality Game or the Future Force or whatever, and they want to option it for huge bucks, then sure, I know my rights as a writer to have a say in the final dispensation of this movie are minimal. And I accept that because I accepted the big bag of money. But most of the time, I'm either helping with money to produce the short screenplay or whatever, then they're still taking it and running with it, doing their own thing with it. And I'm sorry, I just don't love when they make wholesale changes that totally eviscerate the initial concept of the script. And that's what I feel sometimes. And I've been burned so many times, I don't really want to collaborate that much. And again, if you're Paramount and you come to me, then that's a done deal. I already know I'm going to have to give you the script. You're going to do whatever you want to with it, but you're at least going to give me enough money to where it makes it worth my while. The independent producers that are out there just barely squeaking by, they want to take my script because they like it, want to wholesale change it because they're going to produce it for me, but they're not going to give me anything for it except the idea that I got it produced. But then again, if it's produced badly, my motto was always better no project than a project that I can't feel proud of. Maybe I'm being too obstinate about it, but that's always been my philosophy. And that's probably why I haven't gotten anywhere. But except for winning contests like yours. And I'm not saying that in and of itself isn't a great and wonderful thing.
no, I
It's a hell
understand.
of a, but it doesn't make a career. I
No.
still think in a way as a hobby because And so far as making a lot of money at it, ain't happened so far. And so far as being rewarding, and when I do my own, I produce and direct and edit my own little shorts, which I have done for many years, and they win awards. And then I can sit back and say, hey, I did it all myself. My vision was what they got to see, the judges and or the public. And if they liked it, then they liked what I was trying to put out there, not this pastiche, this hodgepodge of what is known in this industry as collaboration, which I think has its place, but maybe I'm just not the right person. Maybe after I'm dead, I'll be a great success because then they won't have to deal with me. And they'll just, take my script, give my
Well,
estate all
listen,
this
no,
money.
well, I think that maybe you just haven't found the right collaborations yet because well, it is film is a collaborative medium, right? And you can't do it by yourself. And in terms of maybe you need some more tone meetings next time someone collaborates with your script, so you know exactly what their intentions are. Because sometimes a lot of times that they make your film or make your script better, right? Like the right director makes it that much better. It
Yeah.
depends on who
And
you're collaborating with, right?
and a director at its core, a film is a director's medium, but the director should always go back. I mean, if it's not on the, as we say when I used to write plays, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. And in this particular case, the director should always enhance what the writer gives them. I always thought of it this way when I was working in theater. The playwright makes the blueprint for the house.
Yeah.
The director, the set designer build the house, and the actors inhabit the house. And if what they're doing is interesting, we, the audience, get to peer through the window and see what's going on in that house. And in film, it's a little different, but it's about the same insofar as the director should always enhance and, as you said, make the script better, not reinvent my wheel. Because to me, the wheel is the initial script.
Yeah.
Why try to make it square when it's round to start out with? And
That
again, I
said,
know that sounds terribly arrogant,
yeah.
but that's my feeling about it.
Well, that
Um,
said, that there has been examples where a director reinvents the reel and makes it better, right? But that's
oh,
those are rare cases. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and also maybe it's not a very good script to begin with. There are a lot of scripts. I look at movies sometimes and I go, how did this ever get made? How did this get the green light? Because fundamentally, the story isn't very good. Fundamentally, the dialogue isn't very good. Fundamentally, the characters aren't involving. So, how did this get made? I don't know. And all the director can do then is try to get it as
Well,
good.
yeah, remember it's all about tone, right? Like and sometimes the interpretation isn't there. And listen, sometimes when it's a listen, I've seen examples where the script is fantastic. It's just that when it comes on the stage or this comes on the it just doesn't work. Something's not there, right? Like because there's so many interpretations, right? From the actor, from the editor, the cinematographer, the production designer, like sound design, like there's so many kind of interpretations of, or there's so many kind of layers of it, right? So you never know, right? That's just part of the film.
And tell me what you think about this insofar as the difference between, let's say, plays and let's say movies. I always love the permanence of movies because once you've locked in and you have it out there, that's the movie. It's not going to change unless you get out, a special edition or something. So therefore, that permanence is locked in there. If you have a child actor, which I've worked with a lot in my career, because their half life is so short, they'll be able to show their kids and their grandkids years later the film they did when they were 12 or 10 or whatever, and there they are as a kid, and that representation is always there. But your stage play is a living thing because each director, each theater company, each set of actors reinvents it in a way that brings it to life again in front of that one audience. And I think that's fascinating about those two mediums. The permanence of film I love, and the living dynamic of theater I also love. So tell me if you think that has some validity insofar as that being a an axiom, so to speak, of what those two mediums are like, in
Mhm.
your view.
And what's the question?
Um, the idea of the permanence of film versus the living, constant evolution of whenever you next each time you do a stage play on stage.
The difference between a stage play and a film?
Insofar as to me, a play is a living thing because every time it gets produced, it's kind of a different.
There's a different interpretation. It changes every time, right? Yeah.
Where once you've locked in your film,
Yeah.
the performance of film is wonderful because it's going to be the same performance year after year.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can also argue that you go to the editing room, you can make the film a million different ways, right? So you can edit the scene a different way. There's different takes, there's different interpretations of the take. There's different, and then sometimes you just have like there's so many. It depends on who's putting the film together, right? That it makes the film different, right? So, but
Yeah,
you're
but
right. As soon as the film is done, it's done,
yeah, I
right?
know. Yeah, but in the process, you're right. There are several variations it can take.
Yeah,
But product, I'm very product oriented. I like the finished product. And once you're there and you finish the film,
sure,
then
yeah.
that's it. And like I say, unless you come up with a Star Wars special edition kind of
Exactly. I
situation,
was going to say, unless you're George Lucas and you change Star Wars every 2 years, right? So yeah.
and Credo shot first or whatever, which I always thought that was a strange thing for fanboys to get all upset about. I didn't even think about it when I saw
Okay,
the
so let's talk about the Mortality Game for a second.
oh,
So I want to talk about the breakdown of the script. So
yes,
when
sir.
I first read it, I was thinking of the Rob Reiner movie, the Bucket List, right? Where
Right.
where it's a buddy comedy and it's they go on road trip, they go whatever. In this film, it's different where it's like there's three kind of different people, just like the Bucket List, right? Two different people, three different people. They go on a road trip and they play games that they do dangerous things to challenge and defy death. So it's different. It's more of a dark bucket list, right? Because when you have nothing to lose, you don't care, so you can defy death, right?
Yeah, one of the judges' feedback cards, which I read years ago, said Thelma and Louise meets the bucket list.
Sure. Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
know if I agreed with that, but uh, I do know the bucket list comes up a lot whenever they read mine,
Yeah.
and somehow think I ripped it off. I said, well, there's a lot of difference between the bucket list and what I'm doing,
It's
because the
totally
whole
different,
idea.
but it's just a jumping off point of like people who don't know each other go on a road trip and kind of figure out who they are. Because the thematic is about as they're doing dangerous things to challenge themselves and defy death, they're learning about themselves and learning kind of who they are, I guess, right?
Right. Oh yeah. And the arc, and I was the one of the questions I answered in the
Blog interview.
written
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
written interview was trying to determine the end because I fell in love because I had what I call the three-headed lead, triumvirate, if you will, for my lead. To me, even though it's Halada's story and the kind of the arc of Halada's life, Schubert and Tugger are no less important. So to me, it's a three-headed protagonist. So I knew from the beginning not all of them were going to die because that was one of the things that everybody thought of the minute you heard of this one's got this one's got that, this one's got this wrong with them, and they all take this road trip because again they have nothing to lose. They think they're all on their way out. But I knew one of them had to, bite the big one, so to speak. And I thought, who should it be? And I thought, well, I knew I was going to have Halida as my unreliable narrator, which is the other fun thing about this story. Halida having a brain tumor the size of I think he said a tennis ball in his head that's messing up his brain, has hallucinations, his memory's messed up. So he's an unreliable narrator. So as an audience, we never know if what he is saying is really happened or did he just think it happened. So as outlandish as I could make what happens, you never know for sure if that's really the case. So it was very freeing as a writer to have Halida narrate the story. But then at the end, I had to have one of them face mortality. And in the end, that to me had to be Halida. So trying to get all of them to have good character arcs. And when you read it, I didn't know if you thought that they all kind of ended or got to the end of their character arc in a satisfying way. Did you really want any of them to die at the end?
No, that's the whole point, right? But it's like, but then again, we're all gonna die, right? So yeah. But there's something profound and idealistic about knowing like we all have our own theories of life. We all have our own kind of what why we're here, what the big question, and it kind of brings it up in your script. We're like, why are we here? What's the point, right? And I think for me, it's about who figuring out who we are and challenging ourselves, fighting our fears, becoming who we are, and understanding who we are. And that's what's happening in the script where people are facing their fears and they're facing who they really are as a human being, right?
And the different challenges. really, to me, the Mortality Game is kind of a bit of a red herring because the game itself isn't that prevalent, isn't that big of a deal in the
No,
movie.
it's
It's getting to know
thematic.
these
Yeah,
characters.
yeah,
Yeah, the game is almost like a backdrop to what these
sure.
characters are doing. One of my favorite scenes is when Schubert decides to become Clint Eastwood and go try to thwart a robbery in a convenience store, which I think is the stupidest thing he could possibly do. But he does it. And he doesn't get killed or anything. But at one point, Tugger thinks he's dead. And to me, that really shows that connection between them because they're very adversarial throughout. They're very quippish and they really, as we used to say back in the day, bust each other's balls
Yeah,
badly for being a little kid and an old man. But the love, even though the word love is used sparingly in my script, the idea of it, the feeling of it, is underlying in all three of these characters toward each other. And I think if they get that from the subtext, then I did my job as a writer because I didn't blatantly spell it out in any kind of big moving scene. I don't think, but in these smaller moments, I think we saw it. Or you tell me? Did you think that when you read it?
yeah, 100%. So, but who are these guys? Like, are they like, do you know these personally? Are they versions of yourself? Like, who are these people?
Well, Schubert being, except for the drunk smoking part, Schubert's an old curmudgeon. And I understand the curmudgeon push away people kind of aspect of him. He doesn't like to be intimately involved, I think, at his core. And somebody once described Schubert, another judge. I've had years of judges' notes. Somebody described Schubert to me profoundly when they said, Schubert is a good man that has made a lot of bad choices. And I thought, you know, I should have had a V8. That kind of moment where I went, that's Schubert in a nutshell.
Yeah,
Um, that kind of character. And then Halada to me is a kid. To me, he's more of a kid and naivete and the way he looks at life and the good naturedness of Halada than Tugger is. Tugger's almost as much, and that's why they get along. Tugger and they are adversarial. Tugger's as much of a cynic in a way as Schubert is. Tugger's lived since he was 7. He's had leukemia and been going through this and going through this. He doesn't even want to fight it anymore because he's so burned out. And in a way, he matches Schubert step for step insofar as being a little tired of life. And I think it's miraculous that that character can be so young and have this feeling about I've had it. And that's fascinating about his character is that in his own way, he's pretty much exhausted himself in the fight. And what I love about his character is at the end, he's not even sick anymore. And they don't know that. He doesn't know that through the entire thing. And I think one of the things a director can have a lot of fun with at the end is the big flashback moment when he thinks about all the things he did during their time on the road that could have killed him when he wasn't even sick. And he faints from the idea of what was going on with him. And I think that shows a lot in his character too. But to me, I just loved my kind of main character, which is Halada. Halada to me is this shining opposition to the horror and degradation and dread of death. Because no matter what, Halada seems happy. And you could say it's attributable to his brain tumor or whatever, but Halada seems like he's coping well. He has a smile on his face. He sees the bright side or whatever, almost any situation. That I wish I could be that, but that would be Halada would be the antithesis of me. Schubert and Tugger would be different aspects of my own persona and somehow they meld together unless you think they don't, but I think somehow these three needed each other because they kind of offset each other. Did you see that as you read it?
yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's why you're winning awards because I think there's heart, and there's relatability in your script, right? So, and you need the different kind of
Well, I hope so. uh,
culture, different context, different points of view in the world, I guess, right? Western points of view, of course,
and,
but and then we
and
all
one of
love a
the
road trip, I guess.
I got 3 wonderful notes in the initial notes I got back from you guys. 2 of them I'm going to incorporate in the script as soon as we finish talking. No, but I'm gonna go back there and put in because I went, oh, why
Yeah.
did it was like why one note about why didn't this guy call this guy to set this up. I'm like, oh, you're right. And then another thing, I forget what it was, but another good point. But the one thing that, and I've had this note before, the resistance I have to making Tugger, who's a 12-year-old, into a 15-year-old. One, because I already have a teenager. I have Halada, who's 19 going on 20. You think of him as a young adult. I wanted Tucker to be a child in a lot of ways that hasn't even gotten to experience life at all. Whereas Halada's gotten to experience some part of life. Schubert's an older guy. He's gotten to experience a lot of life. I wanted those three different dimensions of facing death. The idea of a young person facing death, a young adult just starting out facing death, and an older person facing death. I
Yeah,
wanted those three perspectives, those three viewpoints, and I can't have it if Halada and Tugger are basically a couple of years apart, and they're
sure.
both teenagers, and then I would want to explore if I had 15-year-old Tugger and he thinks he's dying. The one thing I'd want to do with his character is try to lose his virginity, and that would be a main thing he'd want to do, I think, as a character. And that would put us in a whole different realm for his character. So I don't really want to do that. But insofar as it goes, I get the feeling if somebody takes it and runs with it and options it, they might decide to change it that way. I think it would be to the detriment of the script. But again, as you put it, who knows if it might be fine? I don't
Yeah,
know. Nobody ever knows. The final arbiter of this is not a judge and not you or I as a reader. It's a general public once the film goes out there and gets in front of people, being seen as an experience in the theater the way it's supposed to be seen. Not you and I reading it and putting our own mental slant on what's going on. Because I reread it all the time to see, did I mess anything up? And according to your judges, I had a couple of things that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to fix those. And the only thing I'm not going to dilly dally with is Tucker's age. But again, the main focus of this script is how we face death. And is there a good way to face death? Or are there only different levels of absolute fright and horror? Because let's face it, it's very scary. I kind of wanted, by the fact that there's so much dark humor in this, but a lot of slapstick comedy too, to kind of remove the teeth from the lion, so to speak, and say, look, it's something we all got to face. Let's talk about it. Let's live with it instead of living, not trying to face it, not trying to think about it, not trying to cope with it at all in our
hmm,
day-to-day lives. Somebody once said, I hate having cancer because I hate having or a bad heart because I hate having the idea that death, living with the realization that death could come at any moment until you realize we all live with that every day, whether we want to think about it or not. Death could come at any moment. We can step off
yeah,
a curb, get hit by the bus, and it's over. But we don't think about that. That's not in the forefront of our mind because we're not sick and we're not debilitated. But it still's there, looming like a shadow. But we don't see that shadow when everything's going along well. We only see it when we're faced with illness or some kind of crisis. And that to me is a cheat too. We cheat ourselves from the marvelous idea of we're going to die and it's okay. How we face it with whatever dignity and and wholeheartedness we can, that says a lot about us as human beings. And I think if we want to go out of this world as well thought of as we may have been as we're in it, we better think about how we're going to cope with those final stages of our lives. And we better feel something, feel strength, feel character, feel love, feel whatever you're going to feel, but feel it till the very end.
yeah. Well, easier said than done.
All of it.
Right? So yeah, you're right on it. So before we leave you, we ask people in the blog interview what film they watch the most times in their life. Do you remember what you said?
I remember, and I said, remarkably enough, Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy
And as
Quest.
an
Yeah.
old Trekkie, because when you're channel surfing, it pops up a lot. And I've never waited for a second to when I come upon it, whatever part of it it's in, because I've seen it many times, just stay there and watch it again. From if it's at the beginning, if it's in the middle, if it's at the end, and the marvelous music. I forget who wrote that score, but it's got some marvelous music. It's got some marvelous character acting in there, like Alan Rickman. I find it just a wonderful love letter to Trekkies everywhere. And as an old Trekkie, and I still say Trekkie, not Trekker, I loved it. But one thing I'd like to ask you before we finish, and because this is what I ask everybody that ever reads a script of mine. So you're in good company. I always ask a reader of one of my scripts my three favorites. Do you have a favorite character, a favorite line, and a favorite moment in the script you read? And that would be the Mortality Game. Do you have a favorite character, a favorite line, or favorite moment that sticks out to you? And when they say, well, favorite line, I said, favorite line isn't the same as favorite moment. Favorite line could be a one liner you like. Favorite moment could be a moment in the script that you absolutely went, wow. And then favorite character is just your overall favorite character. You have an answer for that.
In your script,
Yes, in my script.
I don't even know. Basically, like, or you kind of flipped it on me. I wasn't prepared.
Uh-huh. This is what I do. I'm one of those lovely curmudgeons that does that. But those are the questions. You say that's a question. The favorite film is something you always ask your podcasters. Well, people who read my script, I always ask those questions: favorite character, favorite line, favorite moment. If you can't think of one, I don't want to put you on the spot because it's been a while since you've read the script. But you might have thought of it as you were reading it, though, back when you were reading it.
Well, probably Schubert is my favorite character. I can't answer. Well, I'll answer one answer. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's good enough.
Okay.
But can you answer why you like Schubert the most?
Yeah. Because I think that they're the one who they're the heart of the screenplay. They're the hearts,
Mhm.
and they're the ones who have the most who've lived the longest, right? So they're the ones who are kind of seen it, right? And I think a lot of people in life have regrets. Most people are not satisfied with life, right? So at the end of their days, from my experience at least, because I've unfortunately seen a lot of death in my life, right? So, and I think a lot of people are not really happy when they die because there's not a there's something they regrets, and I think they regret most of the regrets people have is things that they didn't do because they were scared or
And
because
there's no do-overs at that point. Yeah.
yeah
And that's the thing. I remember that line from I forget what movie. I regret nothing as they're falling off a bridge or whatever. Uh,
yeah
very few people can say that at the end. I regret nothing.
yeah.
And if we lived a life where we can say that, I think we've lived a successful life. But thank you for that feedback because again, when you mentioned something we always ask our podcasters, I went favorite movie, and again, there were a lot of movies I really loved, but when you said the one I've watched the most,
Most
I said, which
times.
one? It's going to be that one. So and again,
Yeah.
not all the way through, not start to finish, but watched it a lot, watched it enough, watched it the most. It's going to be that one. So yeah, interesting question though, and I think a question not everybody can answer easily. Have you ever had anybody blank on that one when
Yeah,
you
a
asked it?
lot of people don't want to. A lot of people either they'll answer like they'll give like multiple answers, but why I asked you is that you remember what you said because people change that answer all the time. So sometimes they forget what they said and they're like they thought it was something else, but then you know what I mean? So that's what's interesting about it, right? So
No, but remember,
it's the
I'm an
moment you're
I'm an
in when
old
you're answering the
no,
question.
I'm an old perfectionistic Virgo. I'm going to remember what I said.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like it's we and it depends on like a lot of people. It's so funny because I interview a lot of people who make a lot of very artistic films, right? Very like kind of like and their answers are always very mainstream answers, which I found interesting, right? Like the most popular answer is like an Indiana Jones or Star Wars, right? Like sometimes it doesn't even matter the generation. Like this generation, the younger generation, a lot of it's the Dark Knight and like a comic book movie, right? In our
Right.
generation, I'm assuming we're around the same age. It's the Lucas and the Spielberg kind of influence, right? So yeah,
And really, my dad's generation it was Gone with the Wind or something like that.
yeah.
And back, classic, way back in the day movies. But I don't think we're from the same generation. I'm going to be 66 in a couple of months.
Well, I'm
So
50. I'm 50, so okay, yeah.
not, I'm a boomer. You're a Generation X, correct?
Well, yeah. I'm Generation X, yeah, but you're right, yeah.
We follow that.
I assumed
Uh,
I thought you were in your 50s, but okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I do dye down the beard just for the interview. So anyway, but no, I certainly appreciate you taking the time
So you were
and
born in
being
59 then.
what now?
I just
Yeah,
doing the math. You were born in 59?
yep. And I thought I was the tail end of the baby boom. Now I hear the baby boom goes until 64.
Yeah.
Not sure. I thought it ended at 59. Now I hear it's still 64. I guess that's right. I don't know. I know that at 59, at the year 59, I'm definitely a boomer. And that's why I just love the concept of yeah, boomer. Whenever somebody says yeah, boomer to me, I go, yeah, you better,
So
yeah.
the example I'll give you is that I guess what defined your generation was Nixon, Watergate, the deaths of the late 60s. What defined my generation was like the Cold War, right? So like kind of like yeah, go ahead.
I would say I was a kid in the hippie, funky Woodstock era of the 60s.
Yeah,
I was a teenager, though, in the sobering 70s. We had Watergate, and we had this, and we had that. And then here come the 80s when I was a young man in my 20s, and we had the AIDS crisis. So a lot of that has defined me, too, because I'm like, I went through some interesting stuff going on at that era. Because
sure.
as a little kid, everything was free love and wonderful. And, I could have been dancing naked at Woodstock at the age of 7 or 8 or whatever I might have been
Yeah,
back
but
then.
everybody was assassinated during that time too, right? So yeah,
Yeah, the loss of innocence, the loss of the naivete of society, the loss of heroes.
yeah,
Because, I was an old JFKer. I love Bobby Kennedy. When they all died, I'm like going, Martin Luther King got shot. I'm like, what in the world is happening? And the thing is, that malaise of feeling like, who cares? What's the point? Is how you get certain people elected nowadays. Because I think people just have totally divorced themselves from the idea of utopia, of Camelot, of the idea of a shining city on the hill, of any idea of people being better than what the most people are, which isn't that nice a thing. Most people are out for themselves. Most people just want to do things that benefit them, and they're very narcissistic. I know I am. But the deal is that should we be? Should we not be more like ants, trying to make sure the whole is protected, than we are out for ourselves, bloodthirsty, I don't know what, sharks? And it just boggles me that people don't understand that long after we're gone, I'd like to be well thought of, as Woody Allen said in one of his movies. Um, and I don't know if I'm going to be, but I'd like to be. And a lot of people don't care because it's all about them and the moment and their own ego. And that's why I think we're in the condition we're in right now as a people, because we've lost that ability to think that people can be better.
yeah.
Our leaders can be somebody to look up to. Now we just figure, what the heck? We don't care. We want somebody that mostly reflects us insofar as being somebody who's not that nice, but very relatable. I don't know.
Well,
Uh,
there's a lot of like distrust in conspiracy theories, and like that's how your president got
yeah, yeah,
elected, right? Showing saying that we have to burn down the system. It's
yeah.
they're out to bring us down, right? So
I have some people that worship and believe in the deep state, and others that go, "What's the deep state? What are you talking about?" So it's the fact that we're so divided. See, I used to remember debates back in the Nixon Kennedy era and back in the day before Reagan. There were the facts and your opinion on those facts, and
yeah,
the debate was in how you were going to fix problems based on the same facts. In the last 40 years, it's whatever facts you choose to believe. Because literally, you can go online and find a survey or a study or an article that will support your view on everything from puppy murder to euthanasia. That'll say, "Oh yeah, you're right to do that," and that'll be your backup saying, "Oh yeah, the so and so fund of so and so had an article that they say they did a survey and they believe this, what I believe, that puppy
yeah.
murder is good." And how do you debate when you can't both agree on what the facts are of what you're debating? And that's where we're at now. And that's to me what's scary. Now you're up in Canada, correct? So you don't
Yeah.
have the same issues we have down here in the 48 or the 50 sort of, but the lower 48 here. I don't know what you guys feel about us up there, but if I were you, I'd be like shaking my head going, what is going on down there? And can we prevent it from happening up here? Because it is scary what's
Well,
happening.
I think it's everywhere because it's just the times that we're in. But then, and remember, like we have 30 million people, you have 350 million people, right? So it's a different kind of scale. But yeah, the most people like we're very we're very like a lot of countries are. We're very like left leaning, right? So our conservative is a centralist, right? So the thing
Oh,
that we laughed the most is when you guys called Obama a socialist, which he was a total centralist, right? He wasn't even remotely a socialist.
Yeah.
He would have been a conservative in Canada, in most
Right.
European countries as well. So that's what made us laugh, where it was like you guys are changing
No,
the
no. The idea of changing the facts to suit your purpose has
yeah.
been around for too many years and is getting more and more divisive and more scary because if people in power don't succumb to the truth and call the truth fake news, then we're in a great deal of trouble. And again, you're right. To me, Clinton was very much a centrist.
Oh, he was a
Obama was very much
complete
a centrist.
centrist. Yeah, he would have, he's a conservative in many ways, right? So yeah.
Joe Biden was a centrist. He
Yeah.
couldn't have gotten elected if he had been too left leaning, because that's the way we are in this country. We don't elect
And
big
that's the dangerous
blue
thing
liberals.
about watching this, if you want to get into it, the States
Yeah,
is that you're not a hard left like OAC is not going to get elected in the States. So don't, you're a centralist country. And that's
yeah,
even Trump is a liberal in the conservative world, right?
yeah,
Like he's
yeah. Well,
anti-free trade,
he's a
he's anti-wars. Like we
right.
basically what I'm trying to say is that that's what gets you elected is that when you hit to the center. Of course, he's got very conservative and very crazy things, but in terms of America First, it's like they you know what I mean? There's a centralist kind of ideology there, right? So
Yeah, he's definitely more of a center right,
yeah,
and he's only, I think, embracing the right so he get elected.
of
He
course,
wasn't
yeah,
all right 30, 40 years ago. But here's the deal with for me on any of this is the idea that uh, you can't be a centrist in this country anymore. If you're not in one camp or the other, you're attacked by both camps. I'm very neutral insofar as
that's
I
the
have some
scary part about it. Yeah,
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 I have some very conservative views on some things. I have some very liberal, I mean, old school. I call myself a Bill Maher liberal. I'm not woke, but
yeah.
I do have some very liberal ideas, but old school liberalism, not this new woke stuff where it's like, embracing this and embracing that simply because it's kind of trendy. I'm like, oh, God. I just, that boggles me. I'm an old man. That to me blows my mind that you have to bend over backwards for people that kind of are one less than 1% of the population.
That's the
Which is,
thing. Yeah, but
and
anyways, but
but to me, that's the woke idea, and it's been taken to the point where it gets ridiculous, and that's why left leaning people have trouble getting elected, throughout the country. That's why the only way the Democrats are going to get elected again here in this country is if they again put up a centrist, and they're mostly dead now. And the liberals, like the OACs, like you mentioned,
yeah,
there's no way to win in, I don't know, Ohio or anything. I mean, there's
yeah, they're
no
not going to vote. Yeah, so
way. So,
basically, and that's the
so
yeah,
yeah.
so
And that's scary because that means we're going to have more of this regime that we've got right now that, again, I don't think has a very good relationship with the truth. But that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong.
no, no,
But anyway,
he's dangerous on many levels. That's what's scary. We're everybody's is scared of how you elected this person. Like, how could you do this to the rest of the world, right? That's
uh,
mostly the opinion.
and I couldn't believe that the best thing we had in the beginning was an 80 something year old man that we knew couldn't last the 4 years, and a 70 something going on 80-year-old man that didn't look like he could last the 4 years that well either. And that was our choice. That
No,
was
they
our
blew
only.
it. Like the Democrats blew it. That's how I
Yeah,
look at it. But
well,
anyways,
true, true.
yeah,
But then again, I really don't know. They blew it from the time that he said I'm going to run again. I mean, that is Biden.
yeah, there you go.
Because
Like, yeah.
yeah,
So
but then again, then we wouldn't have had the idea of an incumbent either. At least, quote unquote, we had an incumbent vice president. Whoop de doo. That was anyway. I'm sorry this became
yeah, no
uh,
problem.
a firing line,
Yeah.
but
But see
uh,
what happens that when you ask that question, what movie you watch the most times in your life, it just kind of leaps into this. But we do gotta
well,
wrap this up. So
well,
basically,
I get the feeling it's going to be hard for you to edit this down to 15 minutes, but I hope you get the best 15 minutes you can out of it.
yeah.
all
Okay.
of this will be
That
all this
said,
we do at the end, I'm sure is gone. So anyway, thank you so much.
yeah. That said, yeah, congratulations on the script. You're awesome. And let's talk again when you win your next script at our festival.
I mean, I'll hopefully not wait 6 years, 7 years, 8 years to enter again.
8 years, yeah, exactly.